Whenever people talk about reality shows, their minds either jump to one of the big ones, like Survivor, The Bachelor, or American Idol. But once in a while, they're reminded of something insane. The early 2000s was a reality renaissance. It was this new exciting thing for audiences, and studios loved them because they were cheap and easy to produce. There was a lot of putrid content produced at this time. You can tell execs were trying to one-up each other and who can make the most controversial material. But I don't want to talk about any of those today. The deep dive of offensive reality TV is something worth discussing, but there's already plenty of examples of that on the web already. The show I'd like to share with the class today is not problematic, rather, it's just one man's attempt to catch lightning in a bottle once again. I want to take you down the rabbit hole of Mark Burnett's Pirate Master.
In 1726, he and his 14 crew hid their gold all over this island. The clues to each treasure are in the recently discovered chest of Zanzibar. One treasure will lead to the next, and eventually to Captain Steele's enormous fortune, all worth $1 million. Each week will bring a new search for hidden treasure. The gold they find is theirs to keep, or can be used as they see fit. One by one, pirates will be cut adrift from the voyage. And in the end, only one pirate will prevail to take home the biggest treasure and become Pirate Master.
So let me set the scene with a little background. Mark Burnett is a British television producer famous for creating reality shows like Shark Tank, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?, The Apprentice, and most relevant to our topic today, Survivor. Survivor features a relatively simple concept. 16 to 20 Americans are shipped off to some wild area and are made to fend for themselves for all the while they do challenges, create cliques, and vote one another off until there's one person left to claim the $1 million prize, or $600K after taxes. The franchise isn't nearly as relevant nowadays, but before my time at its peak, it cannot be understated how massive Survivor was. It's not unpopular these days by any means. Episodes still trend on Twitter every premiere, and there seems to be a rejuvenated interest for the franchise within Gen Z circles, especially after COVID gave the franchise a boost. It still consistently dominates its time slot because what else is on cable on a Wednesday night? Comparatively though, Survivor was a cultural tsunami in its heyday. There was a time where everyone was watching. My dad, who's an English second language first generation immigrant that only watches golf, PBS, and Big Bang Theory reruns, knows Richard Hatch by name and the fact that he won Borneo 24 years ago. Spoilers for the first ever season of Survivor, I guess, and spoilers for Pirate Master while I'm at it. If you're at all interested in watching it unspoiled, most of the show can be found, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's kind of a slog to get through, but that's kind of getting ahead of myself. So what does any of this have to do with Pirate Master? Well, Pirate Master was another Mark Burnett creation, and by far his goofiest. Pirate Master can best be described as an amalgamation of concepts from popular reality shows at the time. That just so happens to be a large-scale, big-budget LARP. The entire time they were on the show, the contestants, or crewmates as they were called, were put in cheeky pirate costumes and were made to act as if they were literally seafaring pirates in the olden times. The ship they were on, the Picton Castle, was decked in a bunch of sick set design made to imitate the swashbuckling vibes of American pirate movies. Now at this time, Burnett was in a position at CBS where they most likely would have greenlit any of his ideas. After all, Survivor and The Apprentice were printing bank, so the network had no reason not to have faith in him. There's also no need to undermine the concept itself, no matter how silly it is, especially in hindsight. Role-playing competitions would eventually start forming a subgenre within the reality sphere, but sadly for Marky and CBS, Pirate Master ended up bombing horribly.
Like I know, for example, a very dark part of our history, how Hitler always had rallies at night to weaken people, how the Catholic Church, everything's dimmed to weaken the flock, to make them think how you want to think.
This was a reality competition after all, so how was Pirate Master played? Despite mostly being compared to Survivor, the general flow of the episode-to-episode cycles was closer to something like Big Brother. Pirate Master followed 16 Americans abandoning their everyday lives to set sail in search of treasure. The central lore of the show centered around the fictional Captain Henry Steele, who along with his pirate crew split his treasure into 14 batches across the Dominican islands, with the only clues to the whereabouts of the treasures being stored within the chest of Zanzibar. Every episode, host Cameron Datto unlocks a cabinet of the chest and reads out the backstory of one of Steel's crewmates, followed by an explanation of the day's challenge. The crewmates are then somewhat randomly divided into two teams to go on an expedition for the treasure. The expeditions are essentially races through the jungle with a bunch of puzzles and tasks sprinkled along the way. The winning team splits the found treasure, and how much treasure found differed depending on the episode, but the total amount of money given out through the show's run added up to $1 million, matching Survivor. Crewmates were then able to use the money they won, personified as golden doubloons, as social currency. The best part about the physical coins is that host Cameron Daddo makes them sit there and count it out instead of just saving 20 or some minutes by just telling them how much they just won.
This piece is worth, in today's value, $500. This piece is worth $100. And this smaller piece is worth $20. Count your gold. Count it up. I've never seen so much gold. How much was it?
$40,000.
$40,000 sitting right in front of it.
How the money was divided centered around the captain system. The winning team would elect the ship's captain, and the captain would then elect 2 officers. The captain would always receive 50% of the day's winnings, and their officers would split 25%, while the remaining 25% was split amongst the rest of the winning team. In addition, the captain officers would mark 3 crewmates for elimination at Pirates Court. From then on, all the regular crewmates would either vote out one of the 3, or, if it's agreed upon unanimously amongst the ship, the crewmates can mutiny and eliminate the captain instead. Mutiny sounds like a fun mechanic, but it's basically impossible to pull off given by unanimous. That includes the 2 officers, who never have a reason to throw their position for free. Not a single mutiny vote is played the whole season. Wonderful. The captain and their officers remain in power until their team loses a challenge, meaning they'll always be on the same team despite the mostly random draw. The game goes on until Final 2, in which the finalists go on one last expedition, with the winner earning the title and by far the biggest loot of the season at $500,000. Something interesting about the money system is how much you end up doesn't necessarily correlate with your placement in game. Obviously, the declared Pirate Master will walk out with the most earnings, but the boots otherwise fluctuate in how much they ended up profiting from being on the show.
Felt it was very important to have a structure. It was very, very important that we are in charge. They can never question what we say. I don't care if we tell them to jump off a cliff, they will do it because we tell them to. And they did in Survivor 2.
One thing that Burnett's shows have always been good at is its casting. His shows seem to understand that a show's format is just the initial hook, and it's the job of the cast to keep the audience reeled in. Survivor always tended to cast in familiar archetypes, which helps to appeal to as many demographics as possible, while also providing a distinct and varied cast of characters. There's some pretty cute charts that the fandom have made over the years to try to track and define these archetypes. Pirate Master casted in similar archetypes, but contrary to popular belief, most of the cast were not Survivor rejects. I believe only 2 people applied to Survivor previously. One of those 2 was Jodan, who apparently was in the running to be in Survivor Guatemala, the whitest Survivor season. I say apparently because the source of this information is seemingly lost to time, but I also can't imagine who would spread false rumors about Jodan from Pirate Master. JD is essentially the lead character for the first half of the show. After winning the initial expedition, he's nearly unanimously elected to be the first captain, and about 2 seconds after that, he goes mad with power.
And rum. The life of a captain.
Everybody up to the halyard.
Up to the halyard.
Right now my crew is preparing to set sail. We're going to go to the next treasure north of the island and have another expedition later on today, and should be full of adventure and fun. We'll see how it goes.
And he's up there like the Cookie Monster, just cramming stuff into his mouth, bread, eggs, bacon, and you're down there basically starving on gruel. That's pretty tough to swallow, buddy.
How's your gold treating you when you're sleeping on it in your gold bed in your gold cabin?
He starts doing things like making the crew do chores and depriving them of decent meals. All the while, his chosen officers take things way too seriously.
People get confused that we're all supposed to be good friends and we're all going to walk away together and live in a big fairy house somewhere. I mean, we're here for a purpose, and they're not seeing that.
I think Jodan is still doing a great job as captain.
We've been given positions of authority, and we're not here to goof around.
From my understanding, the crewmates were supposed to work on the ship during their stay on it, you know, clean it and maintain it, but never once in the explanation of the rules did they say that the captain was to command them in these menial tasks. Needless to say, the crew turns on him, and this guy Louis establishes him as his nemesis.
Definitely when the time comes, Joe Don's got to go. I am way happy to be on the opposite team as a captain, because I want to crush him, and I'm going to write a letter to his mama in his blood. And I'm ready to take the reign of Joe Don down. Your officers and you, of your greed, are richer than anyone on the ship. So don't ask me how many treasures I've won.
Sell it for more than that, though. I don't know, man. 4 treasures, man.
Well, you got your coffer with $30,000. So you, my friend, would bid high.
JD's villain arc doesn't last long as he loses his captaincy in episode 3, a defeat that's widely celebrated. He then loses both of his former officers to either social defection or elimination due to their association with him. For the rest of his tenure on the show, JD is unpopular and mostly powerless. His main safety net is his physical reliability, making him beneficial to keep around for the chance he'd end up on your team for a challenge, and his gigantic load of money. You see, when JD was captain, he kept his 50% cut, which pissed everyone off, but this immediately established a culture in which all future captains began splitting the winnings evenly amongst their winning team. But JD never split his, so he just has way more money than anyone else. This works well for him when the pardon is introduced. Every elimination, the crewmates were given the option to bid money on the pardon, and if they won it, they were immune from elimination that night. The catch is they have to sell it next cycle, meaning you cannot be immune back-to-back outside of captaincy. How this ends up working is JD and his showman/fellow outcast Nessa end up trading money and the pardon back and forth to extend their livelihood in the game. JD's arc is a testament to the general audience's love of underdogs. When he's a douchey power player, JD is framed as the obstacle to overcome. But as other people gain power and the obnoxious attitudes that come with it, you start to feel for him. When I refer to obnoxious power players, I'm talking about Azimuth and Jay. Azimuth basically has the opposite arc that JD has. He's the first one to take the captaincy from him and is much more popular in the role. He starts the trend of splitting money evenly, doesn't make the crew do chores, and has an overall chiller persona. Enter Jay. Jay is the de facto villain of Pirate Master. His intro confessional features him bragging about his own scheminess.
To be the Pirate Master, you're going to have to be ruthless. You're going to have to be cruel. And if that means cutting the throats of people that think that they can trust me and that like me, so be it.
I give a lot of credit to Jay for trying so hard to play a game, any game, the game, this game. He's seemingly the only one to ever come up with any long-term plans, and he even attempts to pull off some intricate betrayals, but unfortunately for him, a lot of his plans require others to share his gameplay style, something they simply do not. So majority of the time, his plans fail. He tries to play the middle of JD.
So, Joe Don thinks I'm his #1 man.
This goes nowhere and does not help either of them in any meaningful way, since JD and his allies are still ostracized and eventually cut. In episode 3, Jay gives $1,000 to this man Sean as a bribe to control his vote for the night. Sean ignores him and votes as he pleases.
And I just couldn't go with it.
What I wanted to do was vote Alexis.
I didn't see why they wanted to get rid of Cheryl.
I told you, shook your hand, look in the eyes. I'm not gonna lie to you ever again. But it had to be that way.
Jay campaigns to save this woman Kendra from elimination to gain her loyalty, only for her to also ignore him and vote however she wants.
I traded not getting a black spot in exchange for my vote against Joe Don.
Kendra, no shot?
No thanks. But the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like that choice, and why was I doing what basically the enemy wanted me to do?
Then later, still burned by her, Jay comes up with this scheme to steal Kendra's cut of the day and eliminate her instead, which doesn't work because the captain gives her the money anyways.
It's Krista. $10,000.
He's really trying to bring up some cutthroat entertainment value stocks, and to his credit, the one plan that does end up working for him, it breaks the game. Jay, Azimuth, and Ben, a former ally of Joe Don who jumped ship to this new trio, form the Triad, an alliance that will control the entirety of Pirate Master's mid-game.
The three of us, the Triad, are feeling well rested, well fed.
It's a good sized bed.
And we have another expedition coming up. And I feel that Fate has already sealed and signed our destiny.
What Jay quickly realizes is as long as Azimuth keeps the captaincy, he'll just keep him and Ben as his officers and they'll always be on the same team during the expeditions. They also have an honorary third officer, Jupiter, who cooks for the Triad in exchange for small portions of their winnings and snitches to them about what the crew is thinking.
I'm so sick of it, like, you know, not telling people what you think or how you feel, you know what I mean? And
I just could say more than I do sometimes. Like, oh, we all want mutiny because everybody from that. It's like, I'm sorry, but every single crew member, it doesn't matter.
I don't want mutiny. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, well,
I don't know. I just love him. And I don't want to see him go.
I have to make sure that I tell Azimuth what's happening now with the crew so that he doesn't get cut adrift later.
All the while smiling about how she's one of them.
No problem.
Thanks, darling.
Do you want to take an extra cucumber?
I'm friends with Azimuth, Jay, and Ben. Though I don't wear a blue coat, I still kind of have an upper hand with being the one who's feeding them.
Jupiter later says one thing wrong and they cut her.
Anything for my hungry guys.
The Triad are already some of the most physically dominant people on the show, and they further help their odds when they realize they can also just keep throwing the dominant people on the black spot for elimination, further rigging the odds in their favor. It comes to the point where they're playing around against Nessa, Old Man Louie, and the aforementioned Kendra, who's bad at anything physical. Credit is due for figuring it out real time, but it really isn't compelling TV to watch the same people win 4 episodes in a row, with the crew having no choice but to get picked off until the rules actively change to benefit them.
So it was very important that we have a structure and do things in a very overly dramatic.
At Final 8, host Cameron Datto announces that there will be no more officers and only 2 people can be nominated at Pirates Court. Presumably a change like this had to happen because then there would only be 2 votes at this stage of the game otherwise. Enter Krista, who's doing this for her daughter.
Way to work it out, Mama.
I'm a stay-at-home mom and I have a 6-year-old daughter, and this could mean such good things for us in our life.
But I wasn't going to do it, and I was like, you know what, I pray every day, God is not going to allow me to fall.
I just want to give my daughter a better life. She deserves the money more than anybody here.
Something that just sort of happens late into the game is Jay's bond with Krista. They have an up and down relationship. Jay goes back and forth from insulting and praising her.
What's wrong?
I knew it was there, again, twice, I knew where it was. Freaking twice.
On the next expedition, I'm just gonna like dig 1 foot around Krista. I figure it's easier than trying to find it myself, you know? Krista, she's got that blonde hair, but she is smart.
Well, Krista is aware Jay is kind of a dick to most people, but shrugs it off as, he's nice to me, though she is hyper aware of his potential for duplicity and gets really salty when she thinks he's playing her.
Oh, I know I can trust you, Jay.
I told you I don't know what else I can do to prove it to you, but I don't think anyone's given more of themselves to you than me. This entire game. I've been with you this long. To not trust me would be the biggest mistake you could make.
Can we even talk and discuss Ben getting rid of me altogether, me, you and Ben? Can we talk about that, all 3 of us? Because I need to clear that up.
Let's do it.
Okay, good. Let's go.
And there is going to be discussions around a strong player like you, you know. People are going to be, you got to find out what people think and where they stand.
In strategy, there's been talk of you going.
That's funny because I've never said one thing about either one of you going ever. This is not something that was a joke to me.
He does consider turning on her in some of his talking head bits.
They told me that you did not want me here at the end because you thought I was too strong. He told me that.
I'm not going to lie, I said that. I'm put that right on the table, I'm not going to lie.
And he does try to corrupt her to play like him, see the Kendra trick, but his loyalty seems real because Jay never does end up betraying Krista. Krista is elected captain after Azimuth finally loses an expedition, and they swap him out in the Triad in favor of Krista. Azimuth's fall isn't even that satisfying since he kind of shut down already after the Jupiter vote. Krista is a people pleaser and opts to settle her black spot nominations via votes from the crew, though being real, she always takes Jay's opinion the most to heart. The Power Alliance win streak doesn't end with the officers' official end. Jay and Ben just become her honorary officers. They're with her in decision making and always work to ensure her victory in the expeditions. Jay and Ben start outright throwing expeditions when pitted against her to keep Krista in power. They don't even take a monetary hit because Krista banks them out for helping her anyways. Krista remains captain for the next 5 episodes. Granted, her captaincy at least provides some drama. Like I said, she gets really annoyed when she thinks Jay and Ben are playing her, and she even throws Ben on the black spot once. She still chooses to keep him though. Running back a bit, let's talk about Kendra. What is there to say about Kendra? They hate her ass. Kendra continually performs the worst in expeditions, and with the teams being randomized, there's a constant lingering fear that Kendra could end up on your team costing you money.
Kendra, she's not a strong swimmer, so I had to drag her to shore.
She can barely swim, lacks stamina, lacks raw physical strength, and this is all compounded by a kind of cringy personality. I'm not trying to lambaste this woman from a nearly 20-year-old edited TV show, but they make sure to put in some of her most pathetic moments so we as an audience can understand why they don't like her. The worst bit is when she's up for elimination and her plea is an open verse poem she wrote.
Kendra.
Yes.
You're up. Defend yourself.
Captain and crew members, this is my 4th time up here, so I thought I'd try and do something just a little different for you guys. From the halyards, I've furled and unfurled sails, barefoot, wind in my face, not knowing what the sea will bring. I've laid amidships between swaying main and foremast, watching clouds form faces of those who were cut adrift. I hear the music of the ship, pianissimo at night, to full crescendo of open sails taut in the wind beneath the sun. My heart is here with my captain and crew, breathing deep the possibility of treasure to be found. The black spot does not cast a shadow, for I saw a red sky tonight, a sailor's prediction of fair winds and good fortune.
There isn't anything that I wouldn't do for this man. I would even take off my clothes and give him a private show to the tunes of his soul, because he's all that I need and more. I would give birth to 10 of his children without using any drugs to help ease the pain, and then I would give him one more just because our love is that insane. There is not one thing that I would not do.
Kendra is given the black spot an absurd 6 times, yet she manages the last till final 6. Hey guys, I realize I never fully explained what the Kendra trick even was, but I kept alluding to it. My brain sees this lack of clarity as a flaw, so I just wanted to go over what happened here real quick. In an earlier episode, Kendra was worried that she was going to be put on the black spot, so she begged Jay to help her out since he's the most approachable of the Triad members. He agrees on the condition that she votes JD that night. So when Azimuth wants to put her up, Jay convinces him not to. Only for Kendra to not vote JD. Some episodes later, Krista's captain and plans to continue splitting winnings evenly in a post-JD world. However, Jay is still angry with Kendra for lying to him earlier, so he comes up with this plan to put Kendra on the spot and vote her out without giving her her share of money. How they go about disguising this ruse is that Kendra has the pardon right now, and Krista tells her she won't give her her share of gold immediately, but instead promises to give it to her later by bargaining on the pardon. Again, Jay's goal here is for Krista to not put anything on the pardon and instead just let everyone vote Kendra off. It fails because Krista can't pull through with the mean girl thing and buys the pardon off her. Also, everyone just votes off Azimuth that night anyways. Contestants like Kendra are actually quite valuable for players in a game like this, especially late game. You know how modern Survivor strat involves working with 1 or 2 people you're certain you can beat at Final 3? Well, that logic is why Kendra's kept around.
Well, I'm cutting adrift tonight. I mean, it's 50-50 for me. I got a weak person that is doing me no good, but I'd rather be up against at the end. And
at a certain point, the crew is openly stating they're refusing to boot her just because everyone is pretty confident they can beat her in the finale. She only finally gets eliminated because the Triad is really attached to each other and options are limited. It is a shame that she outlasted Nessa. Nessa is the season's it girl, basically the woman lead until Krista rises to power. She's repeatedly held up as one of the strongest crewmates and a threat to run against in the finale. Keeps her in so long as a combination of the hot potato game with the pardon and Triad 1.0 mostly aiming for the other men in the ship during their run. Despite the acknowledgement of her physical strength, no one seems to like her or wants to be her friend. Notably, a lot of the women slut-shame her. It's very early 2000s.
She's a bitch.
You have a lot to say to me. Why don't you just say it? I didn't say I have a lot to say to you. Nessa is definitely not one of my favorite people. I think that she's using her flirtatious behavior to get her farther. And I really like Sean. I think he's a really stand-up guy. I stand behind him 100%.
You guys want to make it about me? It's not.
You're conniving and you're trying to pull guys over with your back massages.
I mean, give me a break. What are we, in junior high? That's pathetic.
The men are pretty weird about her too.
When it comes to running through the jungle, basically I just kind of look at Nessa's butt and forget about the jungle.
She just grabbed my ass.
yeah, you slip, I'll do it again.
The main thing that makes her a pariah, I believe, is her association with JD. It's just human nature. When you already have something against someone, you find reasons to hate the people with them. At least Nessa is validated in the finale. The finale format features the two finalists picking a crew for the last expedition from the pool of eliminated contestants. It's very Hell's Kitchen, and Nessa is the only one picked by both.
Nessa. Well. We have a situation.
Make some money, girl.
So she gets an extra bit of money at the end since the tiebreaker is they bid money on who gets her on their team. Gonna speedrun the rest of the crew just because they either kind of bore me or their arcs are contained in one episode. Louis is Diet Rupert. He lasts so long and gets a lot of airtime, but there honestly isn't much to his story. He hates the captains.
How do you feel about splitting it?
Split it between everybody.
I took all the treasure and I spread it evenly out.
Money's meant to be shared, not to be hoarded. That's the reason I hate Jodan so much. He wanted to be a hoarder.
Gets hypocritical when he's captain for one episode.
If I'm captain today after the expedition is over, I will take more on the next round. The captain does deserve more, but if he takes more than 2 shares, he's greedy.
Oh, he's also second to Kendra in nominations. Nice enough guy, the crew really loves him, so he must have been doing something right out there. Joy is injured so many times, once by the sabotage mechanic, which feels like an oversight from production.
Last black through! Right here! Go!
I mostly feel bad for her because her boot episode is the lost episode of the series. If anyone has episode 6 of 2005's Pirate Master, feel free to share it. John is disliked right away and gets into a painful argument with JD over how much they need the compass in his boot episode.
The captain should go, and I have a very convincing argument for it. These compasses are the only compasses. They're your only navigational aids. I have them. If I go, they go.
At night, the Big Dipper points to the North Star. If you know where north is, you know where south is. And you know where east and west are. In the day, put a stick in the mud. It casts a shadow. Mark the end of that shadow, wait 30 minutes, it'll cast another shadow. Draw a line between the two, you have east and west. Then you know what north and south is. I don't need your compasses. And I don't need you.
JD, which way points north?
I have no idea. Perhaps we might be further south than we can see at this moment in time.
Sean is pretty real for lying to Jay. Sure, he got boot for lying, but at least he was one of like 3 people to try to do the whole betrayal thing. Alexis seemed physically competent, but she was too rude to people in her short tenure. Christian Okoye played for the Kansas City Chiefs, which is neat. I don't watch football, but that makes him the most recognizable of the cast overall. Cheryl got kind of a poor shake for being a JD ally. Also, I want to keep the tone of this video lighthearted, but I'd be remiss not to mention that sadly after filming, Cheryl would, less than 2 months after her longtime boyfriend did the same. One of the last posts on her MySpace explicitly blamed the show for fracturing their lives. It was a horrible tragedy and a reminder that as much fun as these shows can be for us as viewers, we cannot forget that these people on these shows are real and to always be wary of the ethics of the reality TV system. Laurel played into the hippie girl archetype that Burnett was trying to make a thing during this time. She fights a lot, which is fun, but her refusal to participate in the in-game politics makes her feel like cast filler.
Captain, I don't really understand. You're asking me about you're not sure whose side I'm on, and I am not on anybody's side. I didn't even know we had sides. Do you guys have sides? I don't know. You may have to explain that to me a little bit more.
The sides, maybe I didn't use the right terminology for saying sides, but it's just a matter of how much you can work on expeditions in general. There's the side of the ship where we're working here. There's also the side of the expeditions where we're out there pushing ourselves to be better.
I don't get it.
Okay.
let's talk about the final stretch of Pirate Master. Triad 2.0 has successfully eliminated the competition, so our final three is Jay, Krista, and Ben. There's a bit of tension there, but regardless, they have achieved their goal of being beside each other in the end. To decide who ultimately runs the finale, host Cameron Datto announces a choice. The penultimate comp will decide who guarantees a spot in the finale, while the remaining two will have to face the jury, which consists of every eliminated crewmate. The jury will hear their pleas and proceed to vote one of the two off. This twist comes literally out of nowhere and seems to exist just because Survivor and Big Brother have juries. I have a whopping 3 issues with this. 1, why are they all on the jury? I just don't think the opinions of Boots 1 through 3 should be weighed the same as, say, Louis, who just got eliminated. 2, it's unfair that this is even happening. The thing about Big Brother or Survivor is the cast is aware of the jury forming, and they see it form real time through eliminations, and they can plan and play around the fact that it's coming. A big element of those games is jury management. How you treat those you boot matters, and the lack of warning means there's absolutely no jury management prior, so that's a whole possible element of gameplay ignored. And yes, I realize shows aren't fair, nor are they required to be. These are reality shows, legally speaking, not game shows, but I retort that it's also bad reality TV, because the lack of prepared jury speeches and such just makes this segment really boring. And 3, this is kind of a minor thing, but I think it's weird that they did the shocking return of the booted twice. The eliminated crewmates, referred to as the Ghost Crew, came back a couple episodes ago. The remaining cast competed against the Ghosts in episode 8, with the twist being if the Ghosts won, they'd steal all the loot of the day and split it amongst themselves, and then they get to choose the 3 nominated crewmates for that night's Pirates Court. The twist dangled a bit of hope that the Triad could finally lose power, only for the Ghost to lose anyways, because of John.
Who has the key? You handed it off to.
You didn't hand it to nobody. John and the key.
He might have dropped it.
We thought we had a head start, we thought we were in the lead, thought we had it in the bag. Meanwhile, John lost the key. Without the key to the treasure, we're dead in the water. I don't want to point any fingers, I don't like doing that, but...
I don't think I was holding the key when we were screwing with the compasses.
Why would you let go of the key?
I don't know.
When did you start hitting land more than water? Well, good answer. Yeah.
Did you eat it, John?
Guys, didn't even make it to the graveyard. What happened?
Lost the key, Cameron.
You lost the key?
Lost the key.
A little rusty, are we?
Some of us.
Anyways, the penultimate comes and goes, and the winner, after a close race, ends up being Ben. Ben is a crewmate I only mentioned in passing at this point because he bores me. He seems like a generally nice man, but his issue is lack of arc. He's JD's sidekick until he becomes Jay's sidekick, and that's mostly what he's got going for him. He does consider turning on Krista and doing a big swing during Triad 2.0's run, but that just gets him marked and nothing ultimately shifts because he makes it to the finale anyways. Krista and Jay face the jury, and it's not even close. The jury makes it clear they do not like Jay, and his defense pitch is pretty bad.
Well, if this is a popularity contest or a beauty pageant, I know I'm going to lose for sure because I'm sure I'm not very popular over there these days. It's no secret the kind of game I played. Everybody sitting over there probably knows that I had something to do with them leaving if I wasn't directly responsible for it altogether. As a matter of fact, I probably black spotted pretty much everybody here. I probably went out and got my hands dirty making sure that I got the votes against everybody here. I was the mean, dirty pirate, and I think that actually is what a pirate was. I don't think you read about any princess pirates or pirates that were, super sweet. Typically they were cutthroat. And I played a cutthroat game, so that's why I think that I'm more deserving at this point. But that said, just remember, I am a nice guy. I just do bad things, okay? All right.
Jay, it's like I said, his main strength ended up being his loyalty to his main allies and all his backhanded scheming flop. Krista is also just a bad public speaker, and that just makes this segment more of a crawl.
I feel that I came into this game with a very clear-cut strategy that has worked for me so far, which is to, in the beginning, sort of lay low and find a person to work with that's more aggressive. Although in the beginning it may have not seemed like I was playing the game, that's exactly what I came in here with an intention to do. Everybody knows here that I came here to play for my daughter. I want to go for Captain Steel's treasure because of my daughter. I need the money. It's my reason for everything I do in my life. So I would just hope that you consider my daughter. I just hope that you give me the opportunity to go for the final treasure.
Ultimately, the jury votes off Jay in a 12-1 vote, Kendra being the only Krista vote because even after being eliminated, she's still a pariah amongst the crew and has no power. Next twist, everyone remains on the ship until the final expedition where Krista and Ben will draft teams to run with them. Just like with Azimuth, we don't really get a satisfying Jay boot moment, despite being the show's main big bad. He just stays there, and he's pretty chill about getting cut. I mean, he could probably read the room when he found out about the jury vote, so he most likely already accepted his fate when Ben won the penultimate expedition. Team drafts begin. It starts with host Cameron Dowdo asking who's willing to play the finale, and not everyone raises their hands, which is cool. Krista and Ben are instructed to pitch to the ghosts as to why they should play with them, and they both offer to split their current earnings amongst their chosen crews. Krista also adds the contingency that she'll only split the money if she wins, which is fair enough. This whole process must be awkward for Ben because everyone is really rooting for Krista.
And Krista, I believe in you. I mean, I honestly believe in you. I think that you deserve it, and you own it, and you will be the Pirate Master. And I would like to be there for as much as I can give.
If I had to narrow down, I would definitely like to see a female Pirate Master.
Krista, I'd love to see you to take this thing, man. I think I really would, and my allegiance is to you.
Even Kendra, who just voted to eliminate her.
Krista, I offer my services only to you.
Jay in particular finalizes his bond with Krista, leaving Ben, who he was allied with way longer, to just stand there as he expouts his loyalty to her.
Krista, you know, you talk about us being together at the end, and I know that it's very, very important to you, and it's important to me too, but I do want you to look around me and really make the best decision to give you the win. It's important for me that you take home the money.
Jay, would it be okay if I offer Nessa your share of the money?
I'd run with you for free, and I have no problem giving Nessa $70,000, whatever you got there.
Ben picks Cheryl, Azimuth, and Jupiter, while Krista picks Jay, fucking John, and wins Nessa in the bid. It's final expedition time. The two crews march off and...
Come on, guys, come on. Good job, guys, come on. When we got to the artillery area, we had a bit of a lead.
I got it.
Running downhill with a giant steel box was like carrying a kid down a hill. I gripped it like a pregnant woman would hold her belly and rested it on my belt, and I was running down that thing. I knew Krista would have some trouble with it, so I wanted to make up for every second that I could.
I start walking down the trail with a steel box in a bag, and I'm like, this thing sucks. It was so hard to carry.
I acknowledge that it really isn't the show's fault that a lot of Pirate Master ends up so blasé. They are working with the footage they got, and there's only so much editing can do to make the results seem exciting. They do try to make it seem competitive, but this final comp is literally Ben with a massive lead over Krista from the first checkpoint and holding said lead throughout, to the point where when she starts the final puzzle, the twist is that the $500,000 is inside the chest of Zanzibar, by the way. He has already finished.
Oh my god!
So Ben wins. The lingering background entity sneaks up and takes it all. Another Survivor parallel. Again, he's a nice enough man, but hard to be excited for considering Ben lacked a story, significant dynamics, and always benefited from the power alliances that made the show boring. That last bit may be bad TV, but it is good gameplay, technically speaking, but it is just so unfun. Here are the final earnings from everyone along with their placements if you're curious. Table is mostly copied from Wikipedia, but I subtracted and added to the money changes from the politics in Jay schemes that weren't documented in their table. The only thing unaccounted for is when Jay and Ben played poker. Jay won an unspecified amount of money from Ben, and then Ben gave that money pool to his final crew. So just note that those amounts are slightly higher for Jay and slightly lower for those three. You know how people play Discord Survivor? You think I can get people to play Discord Pirate Master? Update. There have indeed been Pirate Master orgs. There's often stock put into this concept of legacy. So what legacy did Pirate Master leave behind? Well, they won an Emmy. So yay. Pirate Master's ultimate fate is weird trivia for Survivor fans to find kind of interesting. Azimuth did an interview with Rob Cesternino a couple years back, which delves into the experience in detail, so that's linked in the description if you want to look into that more. The show was an experiment that bombed and was unable to hold its time slot for the entirety of its run, being sentenced to the CBS site in a horrendous Tuesday morning time slot after 8 of its 14 episodes. The game played was quickly solved, and because of that, the product that came out was really bland. Still, it's campy and loud, which are elements networks are looking to bring back with their modern reality output. There are some fans. Everything has a cult following now. Found these photos from some older gentleman's blog. It's just him chilling with the cast. Presumably this is from around the show's release. Personally, I'm pretty done with this Orphan franchise. I watched this show like 3 times now, which probably accounts for some percentage of Pirate Master's lifetime viewership, and I'm really out of things to say. Thanks again for watching if you've made it this far in. Your viewership may contribute to my rent and future Survivor casting, and the thought of that makes 26 hours of Pirate Master feel almost worth it.
Just started to buy into it somewhat, even as hokey as it sounded, and also get prepared for what it really meant. Okay, somebody's going. So it did even hook us, but boy, when it first started, I had the same reaction.